Business news now here on the programme. Stephen's sitting next to me. That means we're going to start in France. In fact, there's been some progress, hasn't there, in efforts to try and end this ongoing train strike here, Stephen.
Management at the SNCF train company say they've put a new offer on the table in an effort to end the stoppage, now in its 7th day. The proposal was submitted to unions after 19 hours of talks that ended in the early hours of this morning. Unions will have until Wednesday of next week to decide whether to accept or reject the offer. It's not yet clear how either of the striking unions will vote on that. In the meantime, the disruption for passengers continues. This Tuesday, a third of high-speed trains have been cancelled, as well as around half of regional and suburban services. The head of the SNCF says the strike has cost the company more than €300 million so far. Guillaume Pepi told French radio that if unions come back to work, train services could be back to normal as soon as tomorrow.
Going to stay in France for this next story. The floodwaters took several pictures down at the Seine at the weekend. They are receding now, but businesses are still struggling with the fallout, aren't they?
It's estimated that over €1 billion worth of damage has been done by the flooding, but businesses are still counting the cost for them, as many of them have been unable to get back to work. Others have been luckier, though, thanks to support from staff and loyal customers. Emerald Maxwell has more.
Back to work at any cost. This events company has not been idle since the Seine burst its banks. Its stockroom may have been swamped, but workers have rallied to help get things back to normal.
It's thanks to this type of company that I can live and feed my kids. So when it's in trouble like this, of course, we get back to work as soon as possible.
This riverside bar owner has turned to social media to help get up and running again. He posted a photo of himself having a drink at the submerged bar to start a crowdfunding campaign to help cover the costs of the damage.
We asked people to pre-purchase their drinks. They'll come and drink them when we reopen. It created a bit of a buzz. It's a way to get attention and get people to come back so the business can get going again quickly.
Other businesses are finding it harder to stay afloat. The owner of this riverboat tour company is feeling the pinch.
We've had a really difficult week because we haven't been able to take any clients, so we're losing about €100,000 a day.
The riverboats ordinarily employ several hundred people during the summer and take some 15,000 tourists per day along the Seine, a major tourist attraction that won't reopen until the river levels subside.
Hopefully the levels will keep receding a little quicker. What's happening on the markets then, Stephen?
Lots of focus today on the US Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen. That's after she made a speech on Monday signalling that another interest rate hike might not come as soon as some had thought. That boosted the American markets on Monday. It's spilling over today into trading in Europe too. Mining companies and oil and gas firms leading the gains. Shell up by about 1% after announcing it'll cut another $4.5 billion in costs once it's finalised its deal to buy BG. In Asia too, it was Janet Yellen fever on the markets as well. We saw gains on most of the stock markets, just the Shanghai Composite there dipping into the red in trading.
Saudi Arabia next. More details emerging of the country's plan to wean itself off of oil revenues.
The Cabinet has approved the National Transformation Plan, which aims to cut public spending by 40% over the next 5 years. The plan envisages a greater role for the private sector, with a goal of 450,000 non-government jobs to be created by 2020. This is part of a bigger plan to diversify Saudi Arabia's economy called Vision 2030. That's to cope with lower oil prices. Now, while a general tax on goods and services will be introduced, the government has vowed there won't be a tax on incomes.
The government will not impose income taxes on our citizens. That was clearly announced in the vision. It was explicit that there will not be any move to impose income taxes on citizens.
And then finally, from Stephen, BuzzFeed. They've cancelled a major advertising contract. This is because of Donald Trump, isn't it?
That's right. The website has ended its advertising deal with the Republican Party in the United States, saying that Donald Trump is hazardous to the company's health. Now, the firm hasn't said how much it's lost as a result, but the website Politico estimates the advertising deal was worth $1.3 million. Now, in a statement to staff, BuzzFeed's chief executive, Jonah Peretti, said the Trump campaign is directly opposed to the freedoms of our employees in the United States and around the world, and in some cases would make it impossible for our employees to do their jobs. He says, we don't run cigarette ads because they're hazardous to our health, and we won't accept Trump ads for exactly the same reason.
There you go, that's the opinion of BuzzFeed. Thank you very much, Stephen. Stephen with business here on France 24.